So Ash, just kind of talk to everybody. I know it's like kind of cliche to start with your story, but I know that a lot of my team wasn't here when you just freaking got started and just killed it, and would love to hear kind of what you did in the beginning, and just your journey so far with the business. So just catch us up on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hi everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous night. Um, yeah, I started with It Works in September. I got this, must be from my peaking. Let's just do a little something about that because we're being recorded. I feel like I should probably like just before I tell you how to make $1 million, like I should probably just make sure my hair's. Okay, so I started in September of 2011. I had a friend on Facebook that was really not a friend at all, more of a acquaintance from 8th grade that sent me this long message about how amazing this company was and how these products were amazing and that I should do this business. And you guys, I read the message. I got all the way to the end and I deleted it. I just thought my poor friend has been sucked into one of those pyramids and there's no way products like that work. And I don't, and even if I did believe in it or did think that pyramids were for me, I would, I have zero time. And so I just deleted the message, but something, just kept coming back. I kept coming back to it and thinking, if those products really work, if the compensation plan is as amazing as she says it is, and if they really pay you what she's saying, which at that point she wasn't even a Ruby. But I thought, gosh, if my shy friend from 8th grade is making $300 to $500 a month, like that would be amazing. And so anyway, gave her a call, decided to join. And, I just took off really fast. I want to preface this really quick with saying that I owned a business for 8 years when It Works fell into my lap. So I started my business at 22. So when this found me at 29, there was, you need to understand, this business is network marketing. And so you're either going to do your networking before you start the business, during, I do it still. And it's something that you're going to continue to have to build. And so I had a really great network whenever I started of people, even though I'd never done anything like this at all. So I always like to preface that and not have people going, how many messages did you send? That's not how I worked my business when I started. So yeah, I just jumped in. I watched my training videos. I saw this video that Pam did that blew my ever loving mind. It was basically, she was breaking down cabs and breaking down how much money you could really make in this business. And I just thought, game on. And I remember telling my husband, I am going to make us $1 million. Like I just knew that if I put my head down and went to work, and I kept saying, just give me a year. Let me see what I can do with this. And so that's what I did. So I just went to work. I went nuts. I had a lot of people that said yes pretty early. Again, because of my business relationship with a lot of people, when I said, I'm about to do this new business, they were like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And, I think back to those first messages on that Sunday afternoon when I watched those videos. And, my first messages, you guys, were, Pam said, make a list of all the people you know. So I started writing down everybody I knew. And then it was like, she said, message them, text them something along these lines. And so I did. And I was like, hey, I'm about to go make $1 million. Are you coming with me or not? Like that was my initial message to everybody. I'm not saying that I recommend that now if you're brand new and starting out. But I think just kind of coming from that business background, I just had this like, I'm doing this. I know I can do it. And if these women up north are making 10 grand a month, like I can do it too. And so I just kind of jumped in, went nuts, found some amazing people really fast, and went ambassador in 7 months. So it's actually six months and 29 days. Nobody's counting but me. I did that in 7 months. And again, when people go, well, how, or, like I said, I always like to to preface that with, you're going to build your network either way. And I had spent years and years and years building my network for my store, and I owned a bridal show. I was in a band. I moved all over the place, like almost like a military brat when I was younger. I'm not a military brat, but I moved like I was. And so I just knew a lot of people. I really didn't utilize Facebook or social media a lot. It was kind of just starting. I used it more to yell at my team and bark at my team and tell them what to do. And so, but it was a lot of face to face and what we call belly to belly, and just, hey, you need to come do this with me. And so, I was just really kind of obsessed and didn't sleep or eat a whole lot or see anybody for about 7 months. But that was my life. And so Win Ambassador, there you go.
I love it. I love it. And I think that that's so true. You can either build your network, before, during, or after. But I do think that, like, at the end of the day, that's something that is just one of those things where you can't compare, because you know what somebody's story was before they joined. And so a lot of times, like, we're like, well, how did that person go so fast? Or how did this person go so fast? But at the end of the day, it was, you don't understand, like, how many people they knew before, or what they did before, or how old they were, or whatever. And so I love that. And I think that that's so true. And one of the things I love that you said is, like, you knew how to talk to people with confidence. And that's what owning a business before did for you. What would be, like, the biggest advice you would give to somebody on how to, like, they can help their confidence grow? Because I think that that's something that, like, with confidence, it's like, okay, people have it or they grow it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something that you did to kind of help your belief or your confidence?
Sure. No, and I appreciate you saying that, because it can be taught and it can be learned. And I grew up being told, not that I was, like, the most amazing and the prettiest or anything else. I mean, I just grew up being told there is always going to be somebody smarter, prettier, better, whatever place you come in, somebody else is doing it better, or faster or stronger. I'm thinking of, like, the Kanye song. And somebody's going to do that, but you can always, the only thing you can control is how hard you work. And so I kind of grew up with that mindset. And so it wasn't, I don't know if it was, and it's confidence. Honestly, it was confidence in the business. I had not even made $1, but I believed that blonde woman that I had never met on the screen, who was talking about her journey, was talking about, her story, was talking about people that were making 5 figures a month. And it was more of a question, and I would have you write this down, is, why not me? And that message, I mean, that question entered my head very early on, like, why not me? If there's other people doing it, surely I can figure it out. I don't know how long it'll take me. I never intended for it to be 7 months. Trust me, I had a 1-year plan before I made 5 figures. That was not something that was necessarily on my radar. But I feel like that's part of it. The other part of it was, how people will use that saying about, if you're at Chick-fil-A and they walk around and they ask you, do you want Polynesian sauce? Would you like, what other kinds of sauces do they have? I don't eat ketchup. Do you want Polynesian barbecue? What's the other one?
Chick-fil-A.
Sweet and sour. Oh, the Chick-fil-A sauce. If a girl walked around with a tray and asked 100 people, would you like this kind of sauce? And would you like Chick-fil-A sauce? Hopefully she would not get offended by the fact that I like ketchup. And I would say, no, I'm okay, thanks. And so there was just this idea of, if I ask people and they say no, it's not going to completely crush me. I'm going to find people that will say yes, because I knew where I was going. So I really didn't care where they were going. I knew where I was going. And so I think the confidence, began in my heart there within the company, and knowing what I could make, that there was unlimited potential, and that I knew people were going to say no, but I was looking for the people that wanted to say yes. And I always tell this story. Because it really was sort of the turning point in my business. But I asked these 2 ladies to join, to just sit down and have a meeting with me, just to talk to me, because they were like, well, what is it? I was like, I don't really know yet. Well, what does it do? I don't even have my wraps yet. Well, how does this work? Well, I don't know. Well, what's the money? No clue. Do you want to do it? It was kind of like, we're going to make money together. What does it matter? But I'm one of those that does not, I know your stories, like, you asked a million questions. I was like, There could have been crack in the wraps or whatever, and I would have been like, all right, that's fine. I wasn't worried about organic or GMO, whatever. So I just knew I could make money, period, end of story. So I asked these two ladies to meet with me for coffee. And the very first one, we met for almost an hour, and I thought I just gave the most amazing presentation, and I was so proud of myself. And I was like, this is it. She's going to say yes. And she's an esthetician in town, and she's, she knows everybody. Because my thought was, who do I know that knows as many people as I do or more? That was who I wanted to ask. And so I started off with big fish. It's funny how, side note lesson, how we ask people that we feel the most safe with now. A lot of times, like, I'll do that instead of just asking the big fish. So I went after the big fish, and I just messaged these people. And so I just knew she was going to say yes. And I like presented everything and was just like, ring, are you ready to join me on our quest? And she was like, I don't really think it's for me. Like, I could see where it's for you, but this isn't like for me, and made me feel about this big. And, I hadn't made $1 yet. I hadn't even put the wrap on yet. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I mean, if she says no, then who's going to say yes? Nobody in this town is going to say yes if she says no. And the very next person that walked in, said, Ashley Sinclair, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I feel like I'm going to do well. And she was like, I'm in. I need the money. I'm in. What do you need? My social? What do you need? Do you need my credit card? What do you need? I didn't even give a presentation. And because she was just like, I need the money. Let's do it. And that right there, I think is all of that combined is really kind of what built that confidence in me. And it's not that it doesn't, fade at times. I think we all have times whenever we become unconfident, right? I mean, wouldn't you say, Kels, like there's times whenever you're doing amazing and you're on top of the world and you're like, I'm a loyal customer signing machine. I crush everyone in my path. And then there's other days when I'm like, I can't, I'm rocking in the corner. And I think that it's something that you just have to practice. And so my tip for anybody that is wanting to build confidence is start with, and I don't mean cheesy affirmations in the mirror, like good enough, smart enough, and people like me, but those true affirmations in the mirror of what you're really capable of, and starting there, asking for God to give you that confidence too. And not just expecting to pull it, from yourself. And then the other thing is practice. Just get out there and practice, because, I was just telling my team the other night, you can ask a million people to try Chick-fil-A sauce. Like, you may have a bunch of people that say no, but man, you're going to find that person that says yes. It may be the first person you ask. It may be the second person, like it was for me. My second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th person all said yes. And then my 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th all said no. But that confidence was built because I was asking and I just wasn't afraid. And I really think that confidence takes practice. It's not something you're born with. Some people maybe, but don't believe that if it's not something that you wake up and feel like, I'm going to crush this day every day. Like, it's something that I feel like I've had to learn and practice, especially in this business.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a couple things that I just want to add on because, with us being at Tony Robbins together, I love that he's like, I'm not talking about the affirmations where you're like, oh, hold on. I'm not talking about the affirmations where you're like, I am smart.
Mm-hmm.
I am pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I am whatever. He's like talking about like, I am the voice, and like the way that you say it, and the physiology of like how you are, I can't with Kim, how you are like saying it, because if your body is going to know how you believe it or not, like if you believe it, because if you're saying it and you don't believe it, your body will know that. So for me, that was a huge thing. And then the other thing is really understanding that confidence and self-esteem. This was another thing that I learned. Confidence and self-esteem really are based on the integrity that you have with yourself. So do you believe the things that you're saying? I'm going to wake up early. Do you believe that you're actually going to do that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because if you don't, your self-esteem is never going to come, because you're not believing what you're saying.
Yeah, you're constantly disappointing yourself and contradicting yourself constantly. So that doesn't build confidence.
Yeah. And so really stick with like the small things and celebrate those small wins. That would probably be the biggest tip I would give anybody is if you're looking to build confidence, focus on what you do really well at first and focus on like, holy crap, like I just sent out, like I'll have people message me and they'll be like, I just sent out like 200 messages and I didn't sign a customer. And I'm like, dude, you just sent out 200 messages. You know how badass that is? Like, I still have my Tony Robbins mouth, so I apologize in advance. My husband is like, oh my God. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But that is like amazing that you sent out 200 messages. Stop focusing on the results when you need to focus on the process. And because the process is going to get you the results. So focus on what you're doing right now and the things that you said you're going to do. If you woke up early this morning and you said you were going to wake up early this morning, celebrate that and build on that momentum that you have within yourself. And you will see your confidence grow because you believe what you're about to say that you're going to do. Go to the gym 30 days in a row because you promised yourself you would. And so for me, that is a huge thing. Okay. So let's talk about like some of the struggles. So obviously the first 7 months of your business was filled with, a lot of positive reinforcement. And just thinking on that too, like you said, like you did this whole presentation. And one of the things that I wanted to say on that is that just goes to show that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
Right. Yeah.
Like she didn't even give a presentation. She's like, I really don't know what I'm doing, dude, but I think I'll be pretty successful. And like, where the chick was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
and you guys, I've done that so many times. Like when I think I was a diamond or double diamond, I was like obsessed with this potential. Okay. I was like, dude, she has like 14,000 followers and she gets like 1,200 likes on all of her posts. And if she joins my team, I'm going to go ambassador diamond. And like, I was like obsessed with this one potential. And she finally joined my team. And she was like the biggest headache. And she was just like, didn't do anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I am looking at the wrong things that I want in people. And so for me, understanding that what you see on the Instagram models page and what you see, it might not be exactly what you're looking for. And so just kind of make like a list of what do you want in people. It's because guess what? You can teach people how to grow their network to 14,000 followers.
Yeah.
You can teach people that. You
Right.
can't teach people a work ethic. You can't teach people to be coachable. You can't teach people to want it. And so look for people that have all of those things, that are hungry, that are humble, and that want to help people. And when you find people like that, you can teach them all the rest of the stuff.
Right.
And all that doesn't matter. Okay. So back to my question. So, when you after your seven months kind of go through, obviously like your business was soaring, what was some of the stuff that you learned like after that, because you promoted really quickly and then you were like, holy crap, like this is kind of a big deal that I did all of this. Was your business just a straight line after that to the top?
Well, no. And I think, I think something that I jot down a couple of things just even as you were talking, and I know you guys hear people talk about it, so forgive us for sounding like, we're beating a dead horse, but the comparison game really got me. And I think more than anything, more than the comparison game, it was figuring out my measure of success and figuring out how to determine what success meant to me. Because, I was actually talking with a girl today that's, pushing for presidential, and she's amazing and has the best work ethic of one of anybody on my team. And yet she's just really struggling and mentally with some things. And she said something about, well, my volume and my volume and and I was like, look, we've got 20 indicators of success within this business. Here's a couple off the top of my head. Your volume, yes, that's one of them. Your paycheck is another indicator of your success and your team and your work ethic. Yes. Your personal enrollments, whether or not you're completing the steps to success, your loyal customer retention, how many, like Kelsey said, how many times are you waking up and saying, I'm going to send out this many messages, and then you actually do it, or you follow through with what you say you're going to do? How well does your team follow you. Even if you got one person, you're a leader, you know, how are you duplicating yourself? I mean, there's so many, are you good at building rubies? Like you can duplicate over and over because you put somebody in a computer and they go Ruby in 60 to 90 days. I mean, there's so many different factors and indicators of success. And I think at times we get so narrow-minded and focused on this one thing in our business. And, you know, I remember I was making, you guys, I was making like 60 grand in I think my seventh or eighth check was like 60 grand. Maybe my eighth check was like 60 grand. That's insanity. But I will never forget. I remember somebody else posting that their check was 62 grand and it took me out for the day. I was like, well, I'm nothing. You guys, think about what I just said. Like, yes, I understand what I just said. It makes me like have a little bit of vomit in my throat. I'm having to swallow back down to thinking about it, that I would actually have those thoughts come in my head, that as though that was the only indicator of success, or, you know, your number or your rank for the year, or whether or not you promote. I mean, you guys, are so many different factors, and you have to determine what your measure of success is. And, you know, mine has changed drastically. Don't get me wrong. I love being in, you know, the top 20. I love being up in the top. I always want to be, I strive to be, but here's the deal. That's not who I am. And I had to learn that. You can ask my team. That used to be who I was. It would knock me out. The year I was number 11, my poor team, that you would have thought that, you know, the sky was falling. I didn't know what to do with myself to not be in top 10. You know, I thought I had failed in some way, not realizing that my 1099 was insane, that we had given back more in that year. We gave back 6 figures that year. We gave away 6 figures the year that I was so sad. I mean, it makes me like my stomach hurt to think about where I was. And I just praise God for growth and for clarity and people around me that loved me through that time and kept me going, because I would just take myself out. And I know some of you are looking around and going, well, she has 5,000 followers and I've only got 2,000 followers, or she's got this. And that's just not our only measure of success. And I had to define that for myself. Am I laying my head down at night and proud of Ashley? And I don't like to talk in third person, but I am, but like first person. But am I like laying down and going, I did good today. I'm proud of myself. I did what I said I was going to do. I was kind to my husband. I didn't snap at him all day. I was a good mom to my kids because I was present and I wasn't just staring and glued at my phone all day. I was a good business owner today because I was intentional, because I did what I said I was going to do. I was good to my body because I worked out and I filled it with healthy foods. And, you know, that's my new measure of success. Was I kind? Did I help someone today? Was the day all about me, or was it about other people? And you guys, that just honestly took a long time to grow through. And it's embarrassing to admit where you failed, but that's the truth. Like, I was not that person 8 years ago, even probably like, I want to be like, oh, it's been that way for 5 years. I mean, even probably a couple years ago. It's embarrassing. But I praise God for grace and for growth through this, but this business has helped me grow that way. And so I think the main thing that I always try to get through to anybody that I'm coaching or talking to is, you have to determine your measure of success, and it's going to look completely different. And it's going to look different in different seasons. You know, right now I am pushing very hard for something with the company and trying to get on this trip. And so you better believe that my focus and my intention is a little bit different than maybe it was, you know, 3 months ago. And so that's something that I'm fully focused on and invested in. But that doesn't mean that I'm not good at this business. If I'm not even going to say it out loud, but I mean, that's not my only measure of success, is my volume or my enrollments or whatever it is. Like, am I making any sense? I'm talking circles and I'm starting to sweat because I'm admitting what a crappy person I've been.
Oh my God, no. But I think that at the end of the day, like, so many people can relate to that. People like Craig Rochelle always says that people will admire your strengths, but they'll connect to you through your weaknesses. And I think that being vulnerable is like one of the most important things you can do as a leader, because so many times, like, I mean, and everybody's been a victim of comparison. You're like, you in your mind, you feel like you're a victim and you feel like, oh my God, I killed it today. I signed 4 little customers. And then this other person is like, oh, I signed 27 today. And you're just like,
Yeah.
get out of my inbox, okay? Stop bragging.
what does it go back to? It goes back to that thing that I'm so glad my parents taught me when I was little. Like, someone is always going to be better. Someone's always going to do more. Somebody, whatever your best day is, somebody had a better day. Whatever cool vacation you took, somebody else took a cooler vacation. So you better find your own measure of confidence and your own measure of success, because if not, you will constantly live in a state of not feeling like you are enough. And you
Yeah.
guys, that is the worst place to be. And especially as a woman, like, I think Satan already attacks us there. I don't want to give him any more room in that space in my life. And I don't know if part of it's just getting older. Part of it is just being way more comfortable with who I am and being able to laugh about things now. But for the love, like, I don't want to live in that place where every day I'm going to bed and feeling like I didn't do enough. I'm not enough. I'm never going to be enough. I can't do it anymore. Like, I was on that merry-go-round. It's flipping exhausting. And I got tired of it. And so I went, okay, what does success look like to me? And I remember writing down my marriage, my relationships, my kids, and my business. And I wrote those 4 kind of pillars down, my relationship with God, my relationship with my friends, my relationship with my family, and then my marriage, my kids, and my business. And I just prayed and asked God for clarity to give me, where can I focus? And he gave me 3 very specific things in all of those areas. And you guys, it's been amazing to let go of the rest of it. Like, I know my measure of success now. I went and asked my husband, hey, what do you think makes me a good wife? Instead of me feeling like I'm failing constantly at every freaking thing I'm looking at on the internet, like, what makes you feel amazing and loved as a husband, and makes you feel like, dang, I'm the luckiest dude ever to be married to that chick right there. What is it? And he told me. And so I wrote those 3 things down. And guess what I focus on? Those 3 things. Like, every day, that's my mission, those 3 things. If it's not on that list, I don't worry about it. Same thing with my kids. Like, I want them to love Jesus. I want them to, laugh a lot, like really, really laugh. And I want to spend intentional time with them. And so I go to bed at night knowing I taught my kids about Jesus, hopefully. I loved him, and we laughed a ton today. I taught him how to be lighthearted, that life is so short, and just have fun. And then I taught him that, and then I was intentional with them. I was with them. I was fully present, not like this with them. And man, I'm going to go to bed tonight and be like, I did a good job as a mom today, because those are my 3 things. I'm not looking at what Kelsey feels like makes her an amazing mom, or what the Pinterest girl feels like makes her an amazing mom, or what whoever is like. I can't live in that world anymore. And that's truly been probably the biggest freedom. But it all started with that comparison trap, I feel like. And that was one of the biggest things that I had to get out of. So
yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's hard because we're all seeking growth, right? But growth doesn't happen overnight, and we want it to. But one thing that probably the biggest aha moment I had when going to Tony Robbins is he talked about, like, everything that you want it because of a feeling, right? And those feelings, you've already experienced things that have brought you those feelings. And so when you live in that place of gratitude and you remember, I'm going to tell you, I was so disappointed and embarrassed in myself, because when he was talking about, think about the moments of gratitude, 3 moments that you're grateful for. I had to search, guys. Like, it was hard, like, because I don't think about those moments because I'm always living in the future. Like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? But if you get into that place of thinking about what you're so grateful for, it is so hard to live in that comparison game, because that's really what makes you happy. And that's really something that you can kind of hang your hat on and remember those feelings, because when you remember those feelings, you're going to find them so much easier. And then one of the other things I wanted to talk about too, just while we're on this topic, is something that I heard today, and I just got done talking to my leaders about this, but it talks about how, our identity is what shapes a lot of what we do, like the way that we feel about ourselves. Okay. And when we get into comparison, what happens is we're thinking about how everybody else views us. Like, oh, well, if I'm not an ambassador, then I don't have that worth, or that I'm not good enough, or if my volume's not at X number, I'm not good enough, or I'm failing, or whatever. And that's based on the other people's expectations of us, right? But some of that is also based on our identity. And so what he was saying, and this was so good for me. He talked about how your identity is like a thermostat. Okay, so everybody has a different thermostat, but if you think about like if you have your thermostat on automatic in your house, when like cold weather comes in, so like bad crap happens in your life, your thermostat is going to work to always get it back up to where it's set.
Yeah.
The opposite's true, right? So when good things happen in your life, like all these blessings come, if your thermostat is still set at that, it'll always work back down. So the whole point, like the whole game is really to raise your thermostat, is to increase your identity of yourself and to kind of raise your own standards in a sense, is what that whole thing is. And so how you do that and how you shift your identity is getting around people who are inspiring to you. This was a huge lesson that I had to learn, because I was like, oh, I'm just going to follow all the It Works people. And I realized that like there's some It Works people that are doing great and they're amazing, but they make me feel like crap. And not intentionally, they don't even know, most don't even know who they are, but like I was comparing myself. Then there's other people who inspire me. So I pick 2 or 3 people that I follow, and these people they change. And so I would encourage all of you to pick 2 or 3 people that truly inspire you and don't just make you feel like I'm not good enough, or they're doing so much better than me. Because you do want to be inspired and you do want to be around people, but don't make it be like people who just maybe your life is too close to theirs. And so it's very easy to compare. Maybe it's somebody who just is at a whole nother level than you, or maybe it's somebody who's literally new. Like I'll go and like follow like some diamonds sometimes that just popped and they're so excited and they're doing all the things. And I just want to be inspired by somebody new. And so that's something, is just getting around people, being around people that are, their thermostat is at a higher level than you, because you're going to kind of have that. The other thing is you're going to have these short bursts that will also increase your thermostat. So like Ashley was saying, like in 7 months, she was making over $60,000. Okay. Her thermostat immediately increased, because she might have gone back to making, oh, poor her, making $40,000 a month, but she's never going to go back down to making 0. Okay. And so those short bursts will also raise your thermostat. It's the same thing if you go to the gym and you lose 20 pounds, you might gain 5 of it back, but you're probably not going to go back to where you were. And so those short bursts of intensity, and it's the same way in this business, you guys, if you have short bursts of intensity, I'm telling you, your whole thermostat, your whole identity can change. And then the other one is confidence, like we already talked about. So those things, and really, what do you think of yourself right now? And then where do you want to be in 6 months from now? By the end of 2019, what do you want your identity to be? And what are the actions that you need to take in order to build that self-identity? Not the identity everybody else sees you as, but what you see yourself as when you look in the mirror, because it's all about who we are becoming, right? We all want growth. We all want progress. So even if you make $60,000, it's like, okay, you're going to get that money and you're going to feel like, okay,
I want to go make 100. Yeah.
I'm going to go make 100. And then you're going to be like, well, crap, why am I not happy with the 60? What's wrong with me? It's because money doesn't fulfill you. Yeah. It's the way money makes you feel and the growth that happens within that. And so I would just encourage all of you guys to seek that. And that is such good advice that Ashley gave you, is just understanding, what does success mean to you? And it's okay to want more, but money's not going to give you that fulfillment. Okay. The rank and the title is not going to give you the fulfillment. The volume isn't going to give you that fulfillment. It might give it to you for a second, but the fulfillment is going to come in the person that you have to become to get that, right? And so, like she said, if you can lay your head down on the pillow at night and say, I am proud of the person that I've become. And I remember, like, I was thinking about this the other day because Pam was here and she was talking about how she was like thinking of her ideal day, right? Of like, this is the ideal day that I want. I want to wake up leisurely, have a cup of coffee, read my book, all of these things. And some days I'm like, God, I didn't sign a customer. And then I'm like, but I just had like an ideal day. I got my work done. Like, I was able to read and grow as a person. I was able to be present with my kids, like you were talking about. I was able to and I just lived my ideal day. So why am I upset?
Because it's because our ideal day needs to be tied to things we can control. I can control how many messages I send out. I can control how much follow-up I do. I can control the posts that I do on my team page and the posts that I make, and I can control all of these things. I cannot control what my volume is going to end at on July the 31st. I can only control me. I honestly cannot even control whether or not somebody actually goes in the computer. I have 6 people that have my website info today that are like, I'm going to it today. Not one of them is signed up yet. I mean, I'm literally praying by not looking at my phone and having it hidden that I'm going to open up and there's going to be 6 new notifications, right? Like, but even that, you guys, I cannot control it. And so it's got to be, your success has got to be tied to things that you have that have to do with your input and your work and what you feel like is important. Are signing loyals? Absolutely. Signing DTs? Yes. You've got, I mean, if you want to stay in this business and do great things, you've got to put people in the computer, period, end of story. But my happiness, my worth no longer rises and falls on whether or not I had a great enrollment day. It no longer rises and falls on whether or not this month's volume beat last month's volume or this check beat that check. I'm over it. I'm done with that being my measure because there's so much of that that's out of my control. And it was making me insanely rich and incredibly unhappy. And so Kelsey's exactly right. I mean, I made more money in 2013 than I think I've ever made in my life. Not by much. I've had other really close, great years. But you guys, I'll tell you, I was most miserable. I almost lost my marriage. I was ready to walk away from it. Like it was not my relationships weren't healthy. They were very me centered. I never felt like a good mom. I was the heaviest I've been in a long time. Like it wasn't good. And yet it was the most money I made. And so I wrote that down, that money isn't what's fulfilling. It's the way that the money makes you feel. And that was the year that when I look back, I really was in more, I was not leading by example. It was much more just that's when I went into management mode and just, oh my gosh, if I'm going to grow this amazing team, it's going to have to be because my leadership is so amazing, as opposed to, hey team, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what worked today. This is what message I sent out. This is how I worked. Do you want to work with me? It wasn't like that, So anyway, yes, we could go around and we could have a whole Zoom just on that, I think, for 2 hours. It's really good.
I know. So you touched on that, just like marriage and just being a mom and all the different roles we play, and balancing it. But I really feel like people can have it all. You can be a great mom. You can be a great wife. You can be an amazing business owner. And one thing that's given me a lot of peace is, I think TD Jake said it, but everybody's juggling a lot of balls every single day. And you're probably going to drop one ball, but you just don't want to make it the same ball 2 days in a row. And I was like, that's always given me like so much grace. Like allowed me to give myself a lot more grace, just saying like, okay, well, I kind of popped off on my kids earlier. So tomorrow is a new day. So I'm just going to be a great mom and focus on that. And that might mean that, I'm not sending out 200 messages. I'm sending out 100 or whatever the case might be, but understanding that, but what is some advice you would give to people who are in relationships and how to balance or blend those things together?
Yeah, well, again, I think one of them, the biggest thing for me was just making those lists and finding out what was really important and finding out from Dan what was really important. And I think communication, I think a lot of times our husbands get really, frustrated. I'm sorry, I should say spouses. Our spouses get really frustrated, or they get really, passive aggressive maybe about things, or maybe they're just flat out aggressive. I don't know. Mine gets a little passive aggressive at times, but I always try to take that behavior or whatever's happening and go, instead of getting defensive about it, being like, I'm doing this for our family, to really get to the root of what it is. Because that's how I was at first. I remember opening a $10,000 check and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This happened. I was 90 days in the business and opened a $10,000 check. And I just thought he was going to be over the moon. And he was like, I don't care. I haven't seen you. I barely know who you are. You are always on your phone. Your eyes are lime green. Like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And he's like, I didn't ask for the money. I just wanted you. I mean, and it makes me want to cry thinking about that, because all it took. So from that, I mean, and we didn't get it perfect. Obviously, we still had some trouble and have worked through so much. I highly recommend marriage counseling. But I feel like for us, it was finding what is it that makes you feel the most loved? Like, what is it that makes you feel like this business isn't more of a priority than you are, right? And so it was the simplest thing. Like, one simple thing that I was able to change was, it killed him and bothered him that I didn't go to sleep with him anymore. Like, I would stay up and work and he was always going to bed by himself. And like, that is an intimate time, whether forget sex. I mean, it's just intimate to be with someone while you're getting ready for bed and brushing your teeth next to somebody and putting on pajamas with somebody. Like, that whole thing got lost because I was like, well, I'm working and I'm working for our family. And there was such a a defensiveness up in me. And I remember finally kind of getting to the root of it. And it was as simple as, hey, could we just like fall asleep together? That would just mean a lot to me. And so it meant that I woke up a little earlier, and it meant that a lot of times I would wait till I'd hear him snore, and then I would like ninja roll out of bed and go work in the closet. Like, but those little bitty things, and finding out from him what was important, it wasn't as much as I thought. It really wasn't. I was thinking he was going to have this, he wanted me to give up the business. He didn't. He just felt second. And I feel like a lot of spouses feel second, especially when we start this business, because it's so new and exciting. It's kind of like a new fun relationship, right? Like, it's exciting and it's passionate and it's new and it's, hey, let's make out all day. And I felt that way. I get it. And I think that it's easy to put the people that we love the most on the back burner whenever we're building this business. And I know I did. And so I think just finding that, just communication, I think, is number one. And finding out what is it that's making you feel threatened. I'm lucky. My husband's like, make all the money you want. I could care less. I'm not threatened by your success or your money. We always joke, like, he always says, I'll hold your ladder. Like, I'll hold the success ladder while you run up the top. I am here. I will support you all day. But don't forget to, like, go to sleep at the same time as me every once in a while. That means a lot to me. So I think that's key. And I think the other thing too, is just two things that have helped me tremendously is not putting my phone by my bed. I don't plug it in by my bed anymore. And I stopped doing that a long time ago. But it's pretty much in the closet at all times. So it's like, when it's bedtime, mostly because I realized so much of what I was putting in my mind right before I fell asleep. I mean, think about the crap that you can look at and like the vortex of weirdness. Have you ever, I don't know how many times I've been on Instagram and I'm like balls deep in the Kardashians and I don't even watch them or care about them. But all of a sudden, like, I have to know what Khloe wore 5 years ago. And it's the weirdest, have you ever done it? And you're like, where am I? And these are not people I care about or know, but putting that away and not letting that, like, why would I want that to be the last thought before I go to bed? Things that aren't lovely and noble and pure and true. And so keeping a book by my bed or, watching something that's like inspiring, or even listening to something that's inspiring, but just keeping that away. The other thing is, so protecting that part right before I go to sleep, but then also protecting my mornings. And so when I roll over, like, it's Dan that's there. It's not my phone. And I think that is so important, first of all, for a marriage, but also to be able to kind of set some boundaries that, like, hey, what's most important to me? My inner peace. If the first thing I open up is a notification that someone's upset, or a customer didn't get their order, or somebody's quitting, or I didn't get the response from that potential that I wanted overnight, like I was hoping, or you guys, I mean, that sets the tone for your whole day. And I've been in that trap, and I still every once in a while will do it, and I'll kind of get in that habit, and I have to go, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I don't do that. I'm miserable whenever I wake up and the very first thing is my phone. Like, who cares how many likes you got the night before? Like, give it a minute. Like, at least go have your coffee or hug your kids or kiss your husband before you start that part of your day, so that you can give your best self to your team. So that's another something. So, I mean, my team knows, like, if they message me overnight, a lot of times I'm not going to answer until 9, 10, maybe sometimes even 11. Maybe I work out first. And my team is not falling apart. We're like, we're doing just fine. And I think it's because they know, like, I have to protect that time in my mindset so that I can be 100% for them later. So those are two things. I don't know if I helped you at all with balancing.
For sure. I think all of that's such great advice. And that's very similar to kind of like, just for me, the biggest thing is just learning how to set boundaries. And I had a very similar conversation with Brian. I mean, I remember, before I went ambassador, I think it was like February, maybe January. And I remember Brian saying to me, we're laying in bed, and he just said, I don't feel like we're communicating. And I was just like, yeah, well, I need, like, I thought that that's how it had to be in order for me to promote. And he was just like, well, God can't bless something that's out of order.
Yeah.
God's order is him, your marriage, your kids, and then everything else. And for me, like really, and he was just saying like, and as a leader, like you care so much about leadership. How are you going to teach your team if you're not doing it?
Yeah.
And so just like remembering that, and like Pam always says, like, it's not like they, people need like your kids or your significant other needs like 7 hours of your time. It's just
No, they
really
don't.
being fully present. And that's the one thing that any advice I give to people is really setting boundaries on being fully present. If you're working your business, be 100% present when you're working your business. If you are having a conversation with your husband or your kids, be fully present having that conversation, and stop being like half in your phone and half in a conversation, because there's no quicker way to make somebody feel insignificant is
Right.
if you're on your phone answering somebody, but you're also trying to have this conversation. I mean, I still do it, you guys. I still struggle with it. And Brian's like, will say something to me while I'm like doing something. And I'm like, what did you say?
Yeah.
I wasn't listening. So that is definitely
Something that just came to mind whenever you said that about being fully present. I know whenever you've got kids and stuff like that, something that I try to leave as not part of my fully present time is typically my messaging or like coaching with my team. Okay. So that's like my gotta be fully present, my follow up, things like that, sending out host to post messages, all that stuff. But what I think is cool is that so much of what we do in this business can be done in really quick spurts. So for example, like your follow and unfollow can totally be done every time you sit down and go to the bathroom. Like your follow and unfollow could be while you're waiting in the pickup line for your kiddos. Your follow and unfollow can be done while there's distractions going on. Like while you're doing other things, there's certain things that can be done in this business that you can be distracted with. So those things that you need to give 100% to, like Kelsey was saying, and be all in there, know what those things are and give 100% to those, but know that that doesn't mean that you can't work on, you know what I mean? You can't do different things in different pockets of in windows of time all throughout your day, because you absolutely can. We were driving today to go to the grocery store, and I said, hey guys, if it's cool with y'all, I'm going to take these 10 minutes and I'm going to knock out a couple of things. And they were like, no, cool, no problem. And Dan's having a conversation with the girls, and I sent out like 8 messages in those 10 minutes that were really easy to do. And so there's little pockets of time that you have all throughout the day. Utilize those too, with the things that are a little bit more mindless,
Yeah, for sure. And I love that advice, because I think sometimes too, like even on the weekends, it's harder for me with my kids, just because there's no breaks. But I think I've definitely been in the car and I'm like, hey, mom needs to make a post. Don't be scared to work in front of your kids. That's one thing that I've just not been scared to do. And it's not that I'm not fully present at moments, but they also, like, I want them to see me work. Like, I want them to see that like mom has a work ethic, and this is what I would expect from you too. And so I just say, hey, mom's going to make a post. And, I also like affirm my husband as well. Like if they're like, daddy's going to work, I'm like, daddy works really hard for our family. Like, it's not like, oh gosh, daddy's gone, aren't you going to miss him? Like all these things, but it's always about just affirming. And another thing that really helped between Brian and I, when just because we're on this topic, is really saying like what the end time of my working was going to be. Because I think it made me more efficient when I was like, okay, I'm going to be done at 11 o'clock. And then it gave him a time where like, okay, well, I'm going to wait till 11 o'clock and then we're going to go upstairs and then we're going to have us time. And really, like you said, putting your phone in in the bathroom and setting the alarm. That's a twofold win. Number one, you respect the intimacy of your bedroom, but number two, you have to actually get up and turn off your alarm, which is a big thing for me. So those things, and just communicating, like you said, but communicating the time you're going to be done. And it makes you more efficient, because if you're like, okay, I have 30 minutes to send out these messages before 11 o'clock hits, then you're way more efficient. I also have family hours. Okay. So from, 5 to 8 or 6 to 9, depending on the day, like I have family time where that's like uninterrupted. Doesn't mean that like my phone's completely on silent, but like I'm not really picking up my phone. I may be taking pictures, I may be present, but knowing that like that's when I'm having my family time, it's also something that I want to teach like my team, because when I come back to my phone, you guys, after that, I'm pumped. Like I'm excited to work my
Yes.
business.
Yes.
And it's not like, oh, I have to carry this thing around with me all the time, because there's no such thing as a wrap emergency. Okay. Like that doesn't exist. So for me, those are the big things that's really helped with our marriage. And then also help seeing what he wants, like what are his dreams, what are his goals that we can help accomplish, and understanding that question. Brian always gives some good advice to women who's just men aren't super supportive when you first start, and it's really asking like, okay, where do we want to be in 5 years, and what are we doing to get there, and really helping them see like this is kind of what I want to go for. And this is something that we can do together to help accomplish both of our goals and our dreams. So those are some good tips. But I love, you saying like you respect like your bedroom and putting your phone in your closet and all of that stuff. Okay. So my next and probably last question is since you've been in the business for, 8 years now?
Yeah, almost 8.
That's so crazy.
I know.
When you look at the people who you've seen come in and out, just all people that have been successful, what would you say, like one thing that has made them, like you just seen consistently with the people who are successful?
I think, I don't know that it's any one thing, but a couple of things, just off the top of my head, a couple of things are, um, they are consistent, and they protect their energy. They very much they very much understand that mindset is 90% of this business. Depends on the day you're asking me. Sometimes it's 99% of this business, sometimes it's 80, but it's a very high number. The statistic is very high, about how mental this business is. And so they're consistent day in and day out. They don't get too ruffled by the lows, and they don't get too overly excited by the highs. I loved what you were talking about with the temperature, because I think that's so good, or the thermostat, I mean. And then they protect their mindset. I mean, they work on it. They're constantly wanting to grow, and they're constantly looking at the next challenge. And I think that the people who I've seen continue to grow and continue to do amazing things in this business are people that always have a bigger goal in front of them. And it's not just presidential or ambassador or whatever, but it's growth. It's some kind of growth. And they don't rate their measure of success on just being an ambassador. Like, what if you're a really amazing triple diamond in this business for 6 years before something breaks loose? Like, that's still pretty freaking amazing, great money, right? Like, so I feel like that's a lot of it. And then it's people that just stay. I know this gets preached constantly, but people that just stay plugged in. I've had very few people. I've definitely had some, but I've had very few people say, I don't want to do this business anymore. This sucks. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. Most people, what do? They fade. They don't quit. They just fade out. They stop showing up on power hours. They quit listening to the Zooms. You start seeing them less and less on team pages. You don't get as many texts from them or messages. Like, most people just fade. And so I feel like the way to avoid that is to stay as close to the fire as possible. And so those people that I think that are continually successful, they're people that I see at every single event, on every single Zoom, on every single Sunday night call, they're just there. They are in it, because they realize that, like, I always tell my team, it's like going to church. I've been a Christian since I was 7. I mean, my dad's a pastor. Like, I know a lot. Just what I know and have been taught my entire life. If I would just go and live that out, I probably wouldn't have to figure out another thing. But you guys, like, I stay close to the fire for a lot of reasons. And I continue to go to church for a lot of different reasons, because I want growth in my spiritual walk, right? I want growth in this business. Therefore, ergo, I need to be around people that are doing what I want to do in this business. And so I think that's the other big one too, is just, and then the last thing would be people that, whether they are passionate, and this probably goes back to consistency, but just whether you're passionate, whether you're not feeling it, you just show up. Just the people that show up, It's such a cheesy saying, but it's the truth about showing up to go up. Like when you continually just show up, guess what? You are opening doors, you are opening avenues, you are creating things in your brain that say, oh, this is the direction that we're going. Okay, well, then it's going to continue to make paths for you in that way. And so continuing to just actively show up for your business every single day, I think is key too. So those would be, you asked me for one. I'm sorry. I got like 40.
No, I love it. And I mean, so much of it is true. And just to kind of be vulnerable with you guys, it's probably TMI, but tonight, you guys, like I had super low energy before I started, I got on Zoom with my leaders before this, but I was literally like laying on my floor in the living room and I started my period and I was just like, oh my God, like I am just not, I don't have that energy right now. And I just was like, I'm just not going to accept that. Like, so I just came in my office and I just like had some time to myself. And I was just like, even if I don't feel like it, I'm showing up because that's who I am. And that's my standard. And I know those days happen, you guys, but I just am not like, I just encourage you guys to raise your standards for showing up. And, a lot of times when you show up, let's be honest about how much better you feel after. It's like going to the gym. Nobody ever feels like going to the gym a lot of times, or they do maybe sometimes, but the days you don't feel like going to the gym are the days that after you finish it, you feel the best. Because you went and you said you were going to go and you did it even when you did not want to. And so show up when you don't know if it's going to benefit you. Show up when you don't feel like doing it, because you're going to be proud of yourself because you're doing something that you said you were going to do. So I love that advice. And what I'm going to give you guys just like a call to action. So everybody who's on here, I encourage you to text your upline one thing that you're going to implement from this Zoom, because I think that oftentimes we get off these Zooms and we feel really good, but we don't really think about what can we do, because it sounds really good when me and Ashley might say it out loud, but the reality of what are you going to implement in this Zoom, because from this Zoom. And the reason I say that is because I heard somebody say once, if you do it, then you know it. But if you're not doing it, you don't really know it. You've just heard about it. Okay. If you're not implementing what you don't know it. You've just heard about it. And so, I'm sure a lot of you get on these Zooms and you're like, yeah, I know I should do that. Or yeah, I know that I need to show up, or yeah, whatever. But like, I encourage you to text your upline one thing. Cause if we just implement one thing from every Zoom that we listen to, your whole business will change. And just text them one thing that you're committing to doing from this Zoom, or one thing that you are going to change in your business. But I love you guys. Thank you so much, Ashley, for hopping on. If you don't mind, I'm just going to close out in prayer real quick.
Cool.
Dear Jesus, I just want to say thank you so much for just the friendship that I have with Ashley, and just for growing that in such a strong and just noticeable way over the last couple of months. And I just want to say thank you for every single person on this Zoom. And I ask you to bless every single person on here in their business, and you enlarge their territory, and that we ask for increase, and we ask for increase in our minds, increase in our spirituality, increase in our finances, increase in our belief in ourselves, and just know that everything that we do it for your glory and in your name. And we know that without you, none of this would be possible. Even on the days that we feel like we did so much, we know that it's only because of your grace, and it's only because of everything that you've given us that we even have the opportunity to do this amazing business. And help each one of us believe that this business is just an opportunity, and stop viewing it as a job, and just realize the blessing that we do have our hands on, and that the best is yet to come. And in proper time, we will all reap in such an amazing harvest. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, girl.
Thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it. I love you so much. And I'll send you the recording.